Shall Clause 68 as amended carry? I declare that Clause 68 as amended has carried. Shall Clause 69 carry? Clause 69 is carried. Shall Clause 70 carry? Clause 70 is carried. Shall Clauses 71 to 80 carry? Clauses 71 to 80 have carried. Shall Clauses 81 to 85 carry? Clauses 81 to 85 have carried. Shall the schedules carry? The schedules are carried. Shall the title carry? The title has carried. Shall the bill as amended carry? I declare that the bill as amended has carried. I'm going to call them in the following order. Senator Seidman, Senator Eggleton, Senator Petitclerc.
I think you all have it in hand. I'd first like to add that I'd like to make a correction to one word which I think is really not correct. So the third line should read, nicotine is a highly addictive substance. We might think it's a drug, but it's not. It's a substance. First off. I know that we've heard this is going to be in the regulations, that clear requirements, clear standards, which relate to the e-liquid itself and the nicotine levels in the e-liquid. And I just think that as an observation, we heard from many witnesses about the highly addictive nature of nicotine, and that it would be important to ensure first of all, the quality of the ingredients used, and the concentration levels of the nicotine, that there should be some standards around that. We heard specific numbers tossed out to us, and I didn't put, I think it was 24. Now it's, the actual titration of this, 24.
It's from the vaping.
We heard particular numbers. I didn't want to include particular numbers here. I wanted to leave that to the authorities, to the experts. And so I made it fairly general. As far as the concentration level standard is concerned, I didn't specify a number. I leave that to those who understand that more readily. I do make reference here to the labeling, and I believe we heard testimony about that there should be labeling on the packages so that it's clear what's contained in the e-liquid, that all the ingredients, not only the nicotine, because there are a lot of other substances in the ingredients. And just like food that we consume, people are consuming the liquid, they should know what they're consuming. It's a question of giving information to people so they know what it is they're taking into their systems. The oversight, we heard things, and again, I tried to leave it a little more general because I didn't feel we should be prescribing to the authorities who are writing the regulations. But we heard things like the type of e-liquid container, should be childproof, for example. And there were other aspects in order to ensure as much safety as possible around the e-liquid, both the liquid itself and the container in which it's placed. And then in addition to that, we heard aspects around the vaping devices and their component parts. So again, the batteries that tend to explode, the coils that tend to have buildup and issues around them. And so this observation is, in a sense, a warning, I guess, to those people writing the regulations, that we heard a lot about this in testimony, and they should pay attention to that when they're writing the regulations.
Okay. All those in favor of the observation, pending the observation? Agreed? Contrary? Thank you. The observation will be pended. I will require further motion in a bit. With the change, I'll come to the issue of language at the end as well. Senator Eggleton.
Well, I'll read my observation. We may all have it at the table, but for other people in the room and also on television, I'll read it. It's fairly straightforward. It says, during the committee's proceedings, members heard testimony that the contraband tobacco trade continues apace in Canada. While the weight of the evidence heard suggests that adoption of plain packaging would not have a profound effect on the incidence of contraband tobacco in Canada, it was made clear that more needs to be done to combat this illicit trade. Therefore, the committee urges the government to consider measures to curtail the production of contraband tobacco, including regulations that would restrict the import of substances used primarily in the manufacture of cigarettes, such as acetate tow, that restriction to licensed manufacturers. I asked this of the minister also yesterday, who indicated she was quite favorable to further looking at what could be done in terms of contraband tobacco, and also that to include the substances used in the manufacture of it, such as acetate tow, which is quite a dangerous kind of substance, and it's one, as it gets into the hands of people in the illicit trade, helps to them in terms of the marketing of their product. So that's my observation.
Discussion? Senator Neufeld?
I don't disagree with what Senator Eggleton's saying here, but I know when I did ask the minister where the tobacco products were coming from, if I recollect correctly, she said that is not her ministry's responsibility. That is CBSA or some other department of government. So whether this means anything to the ministry that's responsible for this, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any problem with what it says, Senator Eggleton. I'm just saying that she was clear in saying that's not my bailiwick. It's somebody else's.
I think we have the opportunity.
Respond. This is directed to the government as a whole, not to specific ministry.
I was just going to make that point. I think very clearly, Senator Neufeld, you asked the appropriate question and got the answer. But it is an issue, and this bill is the one we have as a vehicle to carry the observation forward. So I think it's entirely appropriate in that context. Any further discussion? You ready for the question? Yes. All those in favor of appending this observation, please signify. Agree. Any contrary? That's carried. Senator Petitclerc.
I too will read it. I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. The committee heard from the vaping industry that their products were primarily intended to help smokers quit using tobacco. When the sale of vaping products with or without nicotine will be legal, the probability is very high that people, certainly well-intentioned but without medical training, will be tempted to provide clinical advice for smoking cessation. The committee requests the government to consider the existence of this risk in the development of regulations following the adoption of Bill S-5, in particular by emphasizing existing provisions that do not authorize non-professional to give medical advice. And I think there's a two that is to be taken off there, but so really this is a big concern of mine, that with everything that will need to be done, we forget to make sure that we don't end up with individuals with no medical training, providing health or cessation advices.
Further discussion? You ready for the question? Yep. All those in favor, please signify. Agree. Contrary? I declare the observation approved. Okay, I now have motions that as a result of what we've done today, I must put to you in the following order. I would like it moved by perhaps Senator Eggleton, that the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure be empowered to approve the final version of the observations being appended to the report, taking into consideration today's discussion, and with any necessary editorial, grammatical, or translations changes as required. Senator Eggleton so moved. Discussion? It's standard wording. Any further? That's approved. Thank you very much. That motion is approved. Now, I need to perhaps have Senator Eggleton move that any necessary consequential changes be made to the numbering of provisions and cross-references as the result of the amendments to this bill. In other words, we have a numbering change. There may be technicalities. We don't expect any, but that's what the nature of that. It's understood. Are you ready for the question? Yes. All in favor? Yes. Contrary? That's approved. Finally, is it agreed that this bill report be reported as amended and with observations to the Senate? Agreed. I take that as unanimous. It's unanimously agreed that the bill as amended and with the observations approved be reported to the Senate. With that, I want to thank this committee for remarkable, I think, process. This was a bill with an enormous public and industrial interest. You were all besieged with observations of fairly forceful kinds. I want to commend the committee in the balance of the witnesses that we had. I believe we had a very good discussion of all key issues with solid arguments on all sides of them. And I want to thank the officials for being available to us and answering questions yesterday the way we did. Senator McPhedran.
I'd just like to add to the record our commendation to our colleague Senator Petitclerc for her first sponsorship of a bill.
I think we can take that as unanimous in our agreement, and I think we ought to also acknowledge Senator Seidman as critic for the bill in the constructive way in which she approached a very serious piece of legislation, and the contributions that you both made in leading to a successful conclusion to this bill.